Welcome to Hornbill TV's Primetime with Ngullie. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys have been doing good. We've got some really important news for you today, especially in regard to the plans that our new government has set for the next 5 years. There are a lot of interesting things in the speech of the governor that was given to the state assembly today. It includes, yes, our favorite topic, roads and more roads. And of course, the governor also spoke a little about the Eastern Nagaland issue. So there was a passing reference to law and order also, but nothing substantial in that. And of course, the government looks like, according to the speech of the governor, the government looks like there is no turning back in regard to the urban local body elections this time. So those were some of the contents of the speeches. Just recently we had a shootout between two factions of the NSCN in Dimapur in Telika recently, and unfortunately something similar seems to be happening in Mallory in Phek district. So we will be giving out these details later on in the program. And of course we also have a statement from the Ao Sandan, the apex tribal body of the Ao Naga community in Nagaland. So they are opposing the elections and they have got a lot of interesting things to say in this regard. So stay tuned. Let's check out the top news for today. Two persons have been shot dead and one of the bodies reportedly set on fire at Moki village in Mallory subdivision of Phek district. The Ao Sandan has issued a statement on Tuesday announcing that it would prohibit Ao people from participating in the election if it is forced on the people. Bad news, ladies and gentlemen, and I hopefully think that we don't return to the days way back in the 80s and 90s when everyone was shooting at everyone else in the streets and in the villages. Just a week ago two factions of the NSCN shot it out at Tilika in Dimapur. Now two persons have been shot dead and one of the bodies reportedly set on fire at Mukhi village in Mallory subdivision of Phek district. Reports that we received here on Monday said that the incident happened on March 12th. The bodies were discovered by family members and villagers only on March 19th though. According to the report that we have received here, the deceased were identified as Brigadier Eliezer of Mukhi village and his personal bodyguard Shet Saleh of All Tiwati village. According to the reports that we received here, they are from the FGN non-accord faction. Three persons are alleged to have been involved in killing the two persons. However, there are no indications regarding their identities or the motives behind the killing. In the meantime, the Pochari Students' Union has denounced the incident as a cowardly act. The students have appealed to the authority in concern to leave no stone unturned to deliver justice to the victims and their families and also to bring the culprits to prosecution without any delay. So now we have got a new government and we have elected our candidates and we have seen how they have been given important positions in the government, manning different departments across the state apparatus. And now what we have here is the plans that they have laid out for the next 5 years. So if our next 5 years are miserable, then I think we're going to blame each other. But if it is going to be a very fruitful and productive government during the next 5 years, I think we're going to congratulate our choices and each other in this regard. The tenure of the new Nagaland government has begun, and with it, the government has laid out its plans for the next 5 years. the governor of Nagaland, La Ganisan, addressed the 14th Nagaland Legislative Assembly in Kohima today, during which the government spoke about various important areas of public interest. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, our favorite topic is there, roads and more roads and highways in it. The governor also made passing references to the Eastern Naga question, of course, the municipal elections, and yes, the foothill road. I'm a bit disappointed that there was no mention of the government acting against extortion activities and factional violence too, instead of giving just generalized statements and on law and order. It would have been great if the government elaborated on the steps it might take, because I believe that this is one of the biggest issues that is in the way of the development and economic progress of the people of Nagaland. Anyhow, we don't know what might happen in the next 5 years, and the government might take up this issue on a war footing. So anyway, back to the address that the governor gave to the assembly. The governor said that the PWD National Highways Division will be widening existing single-lane roads to intermediate lanes for a total length of about 178 kilometers on National Highway 202, including construction of a major river at Yi River, improvement and widening of existing lane to intermediate lane of roads for a length of 20.64 kilometers between Mokokchung to Chare. Of course, there are others. It includes strengthening existing pavement of National Highway 36 from, oh, this is good news, from the Lai Gate to the Tragoban Junction in Dimapur city portion of a length of about 6.88 kilometers, among other projects. I think Dimapur so far has some of the best roads in Nagaland, of course, because the main highway runs through this. But if you go to the lands and in the colonies and in the villages, I think the story is a little different. So if the government would build this stretch of the road from Dalai Gate to the Tragoban Junction in Dimapur, I think it's going to make life a little easier for all of us. The governor also said that the government will continue to take steps for the early construction of the Foothill Road, which is also called the Trans-Nagaland Highway. It is a 320-kilometer road. So if it is built, the Foothill Road will shorten the travel distance within the state and enable our people of the state, especially those from the eastern districts, to travel across the state without having to cross interstate boundaries. For example, now if you want to go to Mokokchung, you have to go all the way to Assam, or take a very wide turn all the way from Kohima, Mokokchung, and then to Kohima to Wokha to Mokokchung. So I think currently right now we are traveling to the districts by passing other states. So that is primarily the mode of connectivity for now. But with the Foothill Road coming up, I think things will be a little easier, if it is built, that is. Yeah, it will also connect economically important towns and boost economic activities in about 3,000 square kilometer mineral-rich regions of the state. So that's the plan of the state government. The detailed project report for phase 1 and phase 2 of the proposed road project has been submitted to the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. That's what the report we received from the Assembly said. Also, the state government is making necessary efforts to fully establish the medical college at Kohima and to start sessions from the academic year 2023 and 2024. So that is good news, because I think we have been waiting for a very long time for the medical college. Further, the Department of Higher and Technical Education is taking steps to implement the new education policy 2020. So this will start from the next academic session. Further, the governor said that the Ministry of Home Affairs is holding consultations with the Eastern Nagaland People's Organization for a resolution to their demand. They have been demanding a separate administration for themselves, namely a separate state. But right now, not everything is that clear, and we really don't know what the discussions are all about. Anyhow, considering the speech of the governor and the words the governor used, I'm not really sure things are going to work out that much in favor of the demands that the Eastern people have been making. if you study the speech and the way it is structured, it doesn't sound like a separate state will be given as yet. Of course, consultations are going on, but it sounds like more of an autonomous arrangement that might be coloring the discussions between the center and the ENPO delegates. But we'll have to see what goes on in that regard. This is what the governor said exactly, and I'm quoting him directly. My government is committed to assist the entire process so that all of us move together for suitably addressing the grievances of the people of the areas of the districts of Eastern Nagaland and bridge the development deficit and bring these areas equally at par with the rest of the state at the earliest possible. That's a very direct quote that I'm making from his statement. So it doesn't look like the government is going to consider anything as yet, but like I said, consultations are going on. So it sounds more of development packages and more development packages and a greater share of the developmental pie, most likely. As for the urban body elections, it looks like the government is adamant to go ahead with it. There are no fine lines to read in the statement of the governor. The governor simply called upon everyone to assist in the successful conduct of the elections. Urban local body elections, ladies and gentlemen, and I think all of us are waiting tense whether the elections will actually be held. The tensions surrounding the urban local body elections seem to be perceptibly increasing. Just recently, 3 major civic organizations had already drawn the battle lines as soon as the government announced the municipal elections for May. You will recall that the Association of Kohima Municipal Ward Panchayat, the All Ward Union of Mokokchung, and of course there is the Dimapur Urban Council Chairman Federation. They had raised their fists in warning against the authorities. It is no surprise now that one of the most vocal opponents of the 33% reservation of seats for women, the Ausenden, has also wagged its finger against the government, and they are very vocal about it. The Apex Community Organization of the Ao Naga tribe issued a statement again on Tuesday announcing that it would prohibit Ao people from participating in the election if it is forced on them. So the Ausenden said it was rejecting what it called the imperious and domineering act of the Nagaland Election Office. The authorities had on March 9, 2023, if you remember, announced the election. The sentence says it is not only against the wishes of the people of Nagaland, but it is also dictatorial. That's what they say. Therefore, it is unacceptable. That is the argument of the organization. The Ausenden is said to have resolved on March 20th to stand by the memorandum to the government of Nagaland concerning the demand for amendment to the Nagaland Municipal Act. The organization has made it very clear that the government must amend the act first. That's their demand. In order to protect and preserve the constitutional rights of the Naga people as enshrined in the Constitution of India, the Ausenden said the elections will not be allowed in the Ao region. It will not be allowed until the act is amended as demanded and desired by the people. In fact, the organization has said if the ULB election is forced on the people in its current form, every Ao citizen shall be stopped, disallowed from participating in it. This is to safeguard the greater interests and the rights of the Naga people, the organization says. So let's explore why reserving seats for women in Nagaland continues to set off fire. So let's have a little discussion in this regard. First, before we go into the legislation and their tangible applications, let's remove the elephant from the room. Traditionally, women in Naga communities did not participate in the administration of the village. There are two things here again. A, when I say village, I'm not talking about rural communities that are settled away from the urban areas, somewhere far away from the cities. By village, I mean to say I am representing the Naga people's socio-political institutional framework as was practiced by the Naga people's ancestors. That's what I meant by village. I'm taking the whole socio-political practices and customs that used to be the norm of those days. Number B, did you notice that I said women did not participate in the socio-political administration of the community? I did not say women were disallowed from participating in it. So there's a difference here. Our female ancestors did not participate in community administration because the belief system of the Naga people those days were governed by a delineation of roles based on their understanding of nature, the cosmic powers that govern the universe, agricultural seasons, and then of course festival norms and religious beliefs about the capability and responsibility and the role of each child, woman and man in the village. You could say it was distribution of labor based on the idea of competence and skill, because let's take note, men were also not allowed to do certain things that only women could do. I think that is something we should all keep in mind. For example, men hunted, fished and built houses because they were physically tougher generally, and they could hunt for days without rest, living in the wild forests and living in difficult environments on days on end. So women on the other hand wove clothes, took care of food and children at home. They took care of their household because they had a higher and finer sense of aesthetics and taste. Women also possess comparatively gentler sensibilities when caring for children compared to men who are generally too rough to be able to tune into the needs of babies. So in fact, if you look at even modern scientific data, it will surprise you. Men are better than women in applied and technical activities, while women are much better than men when it comes to issues of relational aptitudes. In other words, men are interested in creation while women are interested in maintaining that creation. I think it will be very interesting for you if you go over and check out some of the studies and research in regard to gender roles. Anyhow, over the course of the ages, Naga ancestors began to lay down the rules from all these norms that they used to practice. The rules began to be set. For example, the village and community administration systems became more organized, structured and ordered. So the erstwhile oral traditions were put into practical black and white rules. So now, the advent of Christianity to the Naga people during the mid-19th century may also have influenced how the early Naga Christians viewed the role of men or women in the society, which I must add here was not too far from the original pre-Christianity gender roles. Those oral traditions put into rules may have been expressed itself into distinct patterns of customs. For instance, that might be the reason why women those days did not talk to or touch a man or any of his tools and weapons. Likewise, those days men were not allowed to talk to women or touch women or any other object associated with women, such as clothes, their jewelry, earrings, or even some food articles. So they were not allowed to touch them. This was especially so during important occasions such as before festivals, contests or competitions or community programs that involve decision making. This I know because this was a practice that was not uncommon even as recent as the 80s and the 90s. Even during my time in the 90s when we were growing up in the school, like we were punished by being made to sit among girls, and girls were punished by making them sit among boys. In fact, this was the highest form of punishment, the highest form of shaming those days. In fact, even to these days, even if you go to the villages in Nagaland, remote villages, there are villagers who subtly adhere to this custom, especially during important events such as during examinations. So you can see faint vestiges of this practice that used to be. So according to the organizations who are opposing the reservation of seats, the idea of women engaging in roles according to the scope and reach of the Municipal Act must seem like an attack on Naga culture. Now this is one of their contentions. In fact, the Constitution of India itself in Article 371A protects the land resources and practices and of course the customs of the Naga people. So this is one of their first arguments. The second main point of argument from the opposition bench who are standing against the reservation of seats is this. The Constitution provides all voting rights to every citizen of India of the age and above 18 years. That means you, men or women, are eligible to contest in any election. No one is barred. In fact, during the 2022 Bhubaneswar Municipal Corporation election, female candidates almost equal the number of male candidates, reservation or not. Of the about 289 candidates, 160 women contested in both reserved and unreserved seats. That's a huge number, and it is still one of the most recent records when it comes to women's participation in politics, especially in regard to contesting constitutional seats such as the municipalities and even parliamentary elections. So the questions that is being posed by the Naga organizations is this: if men and women are already equal, why should they get a free pass to important decision-making platforms or political institutions? If we're already equal, why are we giving reservations? That's the question they're asking. Secondly, shouldn't they be putting in equal efforts as much as the men are putting in? But if women are not equal to men and they need empowerment for them to be able to call themselves equal to men, then does representation only in municipal elections make women equal with men? How about seat reservation for women among toilet cleaners, for example, road construction laborers, or street cleaners, or sweepers, or electrical technicians and other low-income jobs? Why not give them equal representation in those low-income jobs also? So that is the argument of most of the people who are opposing the reservation of seats for women is. So that's their argument. Their argument is that women already can contest in any election in India without seat reservation, provided that they are of or above the age of 21 years. I think it's 25 years minimum for those who are aspiring to contest the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha elections. So based on these arguments, the opposing parties in Nagaland are actually trying to make sure that they are heard. Their side of the argument is heard not only from the constitutional point of view, and especially in the light of Article 371. So they are saying that because of these arguments that they have, the discrimination is not actually against women. The discrimination is actually against men. So that is the logic of the argument of those who are opposing it, culture or not. Of course, the question of tax and land is also another topic which the organizations have used to actually count the government. But as the government has already said several days ago, the provision of land on tax has already been removed from the Municipal Act 2001. So do you support reservation of seats for women? What other reasons do you think the people on the other side of the issue are opposing it? What do you think? So if you are watching this on social media, we will want to know what your thoughts are, whether we should go ahead with reservation or not, or do women really need reservation in the municipal seats? So do let us know. Those were the top stories for today, ladies and gentlemen. As and when news comes, especially in regard to the shooting in Mallory, we will be bringing you more details, and we'll also be exploring other news topics. Thank you for supporting us. Keep watching. I'm Ngullie. See you next time.